Welcome back, everyone. VALORANT Challengers North America Stage 1. It's Sierra, Vans, and Shift. Back at it. Fun series to start things off. Pretty quick series, though, Vans. This definitely does not feel like the same challengers as we had last week.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just looking around my screen, and it just looks like I'm looking into the void, but we're just in the green room, and I was talking about, like, a spider over the ceiling, and I didn't want to, like, Spider-Man in front of my face during the middle of the cast. But, yes, it was a very, very fast series. Although, albeit, I have to say that it has been somewhat still very competitive there on that first map, a split for Thinking Men. There was some sort of way to get some sort of a challenge, but definitely on Ascent, it was one-sided. And Shift, you mentioned it before we went into the break, like it was gonna be some VOD reviewing where they could really work on their mid rounding on split, but if not, if anything, the meta or the macro on those beginning rounds of how they could flush out some more aggressive control on middle for Ascent.
I like how you're like, yeah, Shift, I agree with this. And this is going over my head, Shift. I need you to be hopping in here. What Vans are we talking about here with these big brain things?
Oh, did I zone out? Did I zone out?
No, you didn't zone out at all. I just thought that was the point. And I was just going to be like, yes, correct. Just what he said, but in different words.
So just what he said. Vans is right for once. Okay.
At some point, I thought I didn't answer the question. I was like, oh, no, did I put Sierra in a hot seat where I just, like, zoned out on the question and I'm just like staring in the void of a camera and I'm just like, what is going on?
No, I mean, it is one of those things like the 6-6 half, there are maybe 2 or 3 other rounds that Thinking Men could have, if not should have pulled. But yeah, I think the story was really pretty proof to the pudding aspects of the second halves. I mean, Oxygen on defense were just not really fret at all. And on the other side of things, when you get to Ascend, it's just the Redux show. So simple analysis there. But yeah, I think that's the next step for Thinking Men. And I'm sure they'll be able to recover into that pretty nicely.
For sure.
Yeah, it'll be great to see where they can recover going into next week. Great to see where I can recover going on from here on out. Embarrass myself to keep keeping things off here. I'm not gonna lie, but we'll put that series behind us. We'll put all that behind us. We'll focus on the series that we have coming up next. We do have QOR going up against Moisheim Shopify. Looking at this QOR team to be kicking things off, Vans. What do you think about this week 1 coming out from them?
Oof. So week 1 for QOR actually looked pretty decent for me. I think I had them, winning their series as well. But going into this week is for QOR, I still love what I saw. From I know it's kind of corny that I'm just talking about T-Dog as soon as I see him on the screen, but T-Dog's always been a person that always is able to like step up to the plate and have some backing behind all the trash talk that he brings. And overall, when you're looking at this QOR lineup, it does have some great players that's come from, the challenger scene, and that's been grinding the challenger scene for a very long time. So through all that and with the coaching staff that they have, they look really good here for the continuation of the split.
And just to kind of frame it up, we were talking about, from our last series, taking a look at mid-round adjustments possibly being an issue. For the side of QOR, it's about holding numbers. Their series last week saw 5, 7, 9 different 1v2s go against them, which is never what you want to see. And that's in a series where QOR was heavily outslaying TWT. So they're able to get a lot of the early stuff done correctly, but it's about following through and making sure you're holding your post plans, and then it's not getting clutched on when you're trying to go through retakes as well. Because I mean, that's a lot of 1v2s flat out in a 3-map series. So I think that's kind of the big thing there is hold your advantages. Just don't throw away rounds you shouldn't be.
Yeah, and that just brought flashbacks to like when they were playing against Mame on Breeze, and Mame just like was all over the place on Cypher and getting multi-kills all the time too. So just trying to get trade abilities, fundamentals on your side of the camp here for QOR is also something that hopefully they worked on from that week 1 moving into week 2.
Well, someone that can hold things down. We got it. I know, Vance, you want to talk about T-Dog so badly here, and you're gonna have to wait for that. I'm sorry. First off, we're gonna be talking about Ziff here, looking back at last week's series, and honestly, even just the performance that he's had before, known as kind of a reliable player. Looking back at the open qualifiers, it was Ziff and Moose that were the top 2 Sentinels coming out of there, and honestly, Shift, from the performance we got to see last week coming out, big step up here.
Yeah, and Ziff, I mean, plus 16 overall eliminations. He dropped 54 in the series as a Sentinel, and Reyna for the L is not something you often say out loud. So
why you gotta say Reyna like that?
Well, because like it was, I wanted to say like he did it as a Sentinel, but he also played Reyna. It was like it wasn't like a slight towards Reyna as much as it was like a little caveat footnote. Like it wasn't just on Sentinel gameplay. But I think the thing is, and we talked about this, it's kind of a natural segue from our first series. When your Sentinel player can be trusted to do things like this, you just feel so uber confident in your ability to trust your 5v5 opening setups, especially on defense. The thing is, and not to, again, go down the same path twice here, but you just have to be able to hold those numbers advantages when Ziff is giving them to you, which is pretty often. So that's where I think, the worlds kind of meet in those two talking points.
And I also like the fact that, Core allows Ziff to play a little bit of Reyna too. So it shows a little bit in terms of like what he brings to the table, how the composition could maybe change from map to map for the whole roster as well. Although if they need a second duelist behind what they currently have here over with Zeldris as that main duelist, Ziff could do that. And I also love the fact that he gets to play Reyna because sometimes, just like if Redux is going to be the one that's going to be popping all those kills for Oxygen, you're just a Sentinel just sitting in your site doing nothing. So now you have a chance now for the coaches to let you loose a little bit, and then you could just get some kills and then just be satisfied that you're able to frag whenever you need to.
And someone that can be trusted with that too, because it's not like, I've never really played a duelist. I mean, looking at his past, he's had Initiator, he's had this duelist experience. So he can be trusted with that change. But I still think that Core, they definitely have their work set out for them going into today's match. Because when we're looking at this MXS roster and just this team in general, it is one of the super teams that we've been talking about going ahead into Challenger Shift. This roster, it was a combination of teams, and it is stacked.
Yeah, it's stacked. And again, we talked about the other side of this conversation when we were talking about Oxygen, but you started your entire Swiss stage off playing up against the probably other best team in your group, and you pretty much handle them. I mean, I won't say that with that certain conviction because the games were tight, but there were a couple of great moments individually, I think, as well, kind of talking about this MXS team. It shows you where their ceiling could potentially be with extra work coming through. Plus, this is another one of those squads that really proved themselves throughout the offseason, playing in a lot of those creator events and things of the nature and squaring up and winning a lot of matches versus VCT caliber squads. So that's another thing that just kind of adds to the confidence boosting that you would come to expect from, I would say, our most improved team from Challengers last year. Definitely felt a little bad we couldn't fully get them all the way into the Ascension mix, but they were definitely a squad that was really starting to cook near the end of the season, and they have not really slouched at all so far in the one match that they've played. But even through the offseason, they've looked good this year.
If anything, the key word, as you've mentioned right there, Shift, is they haven't slouched at all. And when you've mentioned all these creator events, for example, again, the Sean Garris Invitational or the Ludwig and Tarek Invitational, it was a roster that had Thief all the time, right?
Yeah.
Through all this, that would look really good. And then you're going into week one being like, holy crap, what the hell happened? Why did we make such a sudden change by bringing Odashima as the IGL for the team right now, and also taking him away from the main head coach? So now you're taking away a little bit of coaching staff to put him under his IGL and potentially even have, a kink in the armor or, before you start your first week. But although, albeit Odashima actually played a very good series overall against OXG, and that adds a lot of firepower as well to the rest of the team. I mean, Vic is another great player that stepped up to the plate in that week number one, and overall is going to be a great addition to this roster, being like a really good controller player.
Definitely want to talk more about Odashima's addition to the team, because ISO IGLing, but of course being able to bring in a player that knows this team on such a high level, I think is quite interesting. And I think where we didn't have question marks around the other four players, we definitely did about Odashima kind of going into week one. But pulling up these tweets from the team, I think this is so just, I don't know, this is a great mentality coming out from everybody here, because this was an addition that everyone's excited about. Oda as being Odashima here, like, put some respect on his name. Love seeing everyone talk about this player Shift. I think that is so nice that not only do we have eyes on Odashima, like, oh, okay, what's he capable of, but the entire team seems to be backing him.
Yeah, and I wasn't a part of any of those conversations. Could put myself out of the line of fire here when it comes to Fly talking about it, but it's like Odorous is not new. I mean, in fact, you could probably go to the initial days and look at the history that he's been able to put together as a player. Super talented. Pioneers. And I think there is something to be said about, the familiarity of him being, on the staff side of things. That now him being in the main mix, it kills the filtration process. you just trust what he has to say. You don't have to worry about, okay, well, Odor has said this, and now our IGL is saying that as a translation of it. Like, there's that, maybe that little bit of a kind of an instant connection towards whatever the call happens to be. So yeah, it is curious, because it's been since like mid 2023 the last time that Odor stepped into the competitive arena. But I think, like Vansili said, he put together a good performance, playing a crucial role for his squad in a marquee matchup week 1. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things that all of the talk, I think, is definitely merited from MXS and the rest of their player base.
And even if Odashima goes in right now as an IGL role for the team, I mean, I was joking around that he'd lose a bit of that coaching capability right now through the roster, but they still have Mac behind the helm, right? Yeah. Behind the reins, and he's done such a tremendous amount of work for this team, or in his careers overall. When I'm thinking, even I think it was like LG days moving into today. So he's got a lot of experience right now as a coach for the team too. And now you have somebody right here, as you see on the screen, Odashima, able to bond a little bit more in terms of strategy and how they see the direction of the team is heading towards to strategically and macro wise. And it seems to be really working well, because you're also allowing Mata to really pop off a lot more too in his duelist role, where there's been some not necessarily questionable things about Mata in the past. It's just like you're looking for more stability in terms of like his duelist role, and he was never really given that chance to create consistently good numbers. And I like to feel that we started seeing that right now throughout the offseason into the first week here.
Well, something that Odashima did take over joining the team. I spoke to Flya last week after their win, and Flya was talking about how Odashima kind of took over a little bit more of that lurk, a little bit of a late push role, so Flya could be with the team, main caller for that main push. So I definitely like that. The team seems pretty coordinated on this addition into the team, and that it can be kind of elevated in the status. So I'm excited to see what's going to be coming out more from this team, and excited to get even further in today's matchup with our map picks and bans. Find out where we're going to be kicking things off. We saw a lot of Lotus last week. If you were tuning in for week 1 matches. So honestly, thank you so much, QOR, for banning that one out. We're going to be kicking things off on Icebox here, Shift. Icebox, Spine, and Breeze. It's definitely a fun map pool.
Yeah, the Icebox being selected, I didn't have on my bingo card.
Me neither.
But I'm not upset with it. I think largely because you do have an opportunity to kind of get a new look for MXS. Haven't played this map in quite some time. But the one that stands out, and this is kind of where the and Reyna came into play, was on Vine, where we saw QOR pull out not just the Reyna, but also the Gecko as a part of that setup. So I think that this will also kind of test MXS to see how their adaptability goes in towards playing up against a very unique comp when we do eventually get to map number 2.
Yeah, and I do agree with you about this Icebox pick. I mean, if anything, when you're looking at the open qualifiers until now, what QOR seems to be very strong at is Ascent. But interestingly enough, it wasn't the first map that was banned here by MXS. They banned Sunset first. Yeah. So at the end of the day, you still had an opportunity to pick Ascent as your first map if you wanted to, having all the results that you had during the open qualifiers. But Icebox was another very strong map of theirs, where I think they went 4-1 in their record through. So in the end, when you're looking at the composition that they're currently using, it's like, okay, well, it looks a little bit more traditional. And overall, the comps are more traditional, if I could put it that way, for QOR. So there's a possibility here, as you've mentioned here, Chip, because we haven't seen too much of MXS on Icebox in the past, then there's a possibility here that they cooked a little bit more to min-max now with the changes that happened towards this B in mid-site, to maybe change compositions, or just trying to figure out how you beat this traditional comp style, or if you want to play that traditional comp and go head-to-head instead against your opponent and just go for stage wall plans.
I mean, it's been a little bit since we've seen MXS over on Icebox, but I believe the last time they played it too, we get to see coming up from a few teams now is that double controller and that Harbor and that Viper. So, I mean, if this is something that QOR is prepared for, just to feel confident to go against that style of comp, I'm intrigued, or if we are going to be seeing a switch up shift going into this, because it has been a little bit since we've seen that. And that's the thing with MXS, is the information is not all fully there.
Yeah, and that's why I think this is kind of one that like really piques the interest, right? Because, I wouldn't necessarily look at a team really like any of our top 3, like M80, MXS, Oxygen, of being like really like trendsetters and like, hey, look at this really awesome weird comp that no one else is playing that we're going to find tons of success on. It feels like they're, I won't say meta slaves, but they're definitely more along the lines of playing it more orthodoxically. And I think the only thing that really falters our main three teams, I hate to use that as kind of an overarching umbrella term, but our spotlighted three teams that we keep talking about, is that they sometimes get surprised. That's kind of, I think, the only real thing you look at. So I'll be curious to see if Core have had a chance to do something strange on Icebox since they played it in the qualifiers and try to keep that variability in the mix to possibly be a bonus for them. Otherwise, I'm just excited to see what MXS offer for us here. Are they going to kind of go in towards playing double controller, or are they going to kind of run something like a Killjoy with a Viper, playing it more like a kind of lockdown style that we often see teams pull? So it'll be curious, I think, to see what they want to do.
And based on what you're saying there too, though, here, Schiff, is yes, maybe Core has an opportunity to surprise their opponents if they're going to come out with something new, but this is also an opportunity for MXS to come out with something new if we haven't seen them since that Tarek and Ludwig Invitational where they did play the double controller. And at this point, excuse me, as you're looking at how, for example, Loud brought out the double controller here for this map on Icebox, bringing the Harbor and Viper, there's still some sort of way that you could understand being like, okay, well, if MXS are going to continue to come out with the double controller, they could still play a very similar style to that or to what they're more comfortable with that we saw during the Ludwig and Tarek Invitational, right? That, it's MXS, you got to mix them all both at the same time. You do the same
Ludwig.
Nonetheless, though, if you're looking at that composition on Icebox, though, what they're currently using as a single initiator is a Sky. And a Sky, it's kind of nice if you want to, try to flash within the portions that you're sectioning with your two controllers, but I think you could do a little bit more as well if you want to min-max to bring out the Sova, for example, instead, so you could flood a little bit more of utility while your opponents are trapped in that area in those moments that you're slicing on these retakes, for example, on defense. So, there's two routes you could go at this with MXS. It's to come out with a brand new comp, or just min-max what you currently have and try to figure out what's going to be the best way that you want to play these retakes for the team.
And I think just quickly on the other side here for Core, I would just go with what you know here, because just looking at the matchup, from a macro standpoint, whenever you start to talk about let's throw something weird in the mix, it often kind of relies on that's enabling one player to kind of be trusted to do something crazy. That you talk about things like the Reyna comp, for instance, when we get to bind, you're looking at one player to be enabled to do something more than what they would normally see in a team environment. I just don't think Core beat MXS from an individual standpoint. I think they have to play a better macro game than MXS do, which is not an easy ask, but that's just kind of, after watching them play against CWT, and then on the flip side, watching MXS kind of outplay Oxygen in a couple of team macro moments, that's where it feels like this battleground has to be set, is do it inside of the norm and not the unusual, I think is my kind of frame on this entire series.
Especially, too, since that can only really take you so far. Because we got to see SAT Esports yesterday going up against M80 with the craziest comp that we got to see. It was the most fun, mind-warping game of Valorant that we've gotten to see in a while. And it definitely did catch them off guard for a bit. And I feel like that's kind of where it kind of stops going on to this, Vance, because sure, it might be able to get you a couple of rounds, but when you're looking at a team like MXS, I'm assuming that Flya is going to figure it out. I'm assuming that they're going to be able to put their head around this unorthodox thing coming their way, which is why as a core thing, I wouldn't necessarily like to see that, as entertaining as it would be.
Yeah, exactly. And if I'm flying, I'm trying to figure out exactly what we're currently doing here for Core. If we're running more traditional comps, I mean, quote unquote, I say that, but albeit when you're looking at the composition that they're using here for Icebox for Core, is that they don't have a Sage really to go for Sage plants. They don't have a Deadlock to really try to block out, players running through Viper walls to deny you plants. You're basically running an Omen. So you're running double control on your side as well, but your Omen's going to be the one TPing and trying to create in some space. And at the same time, throw one ways, of course, on defense. But most importantly is the composition that you have doesn't really allow for you to do that much damage or pressure going into your B site plants. The only thing you can really do is put the Viper wall up, maybe try to Omen TP across the first set of the orange line to try to get a plant on the left side here of the B site, right? You'll close your eyes, you'll visualize it. But at that point, you're still losing a bit of utility where players could still run through the walls and just counter against you right away, especially when you're playing against double controllers. So at that point, there's a little bit of min-maxing that has to be done from Core side as well. if it's not on their composition, but how even their IGL could figure out how they could play against that double controller fly in the end. So there's definitely going to be a lot of preparation that goes down into that. And maybe we're thinking too ahead of it as well. Maybe it's just a strong map and a strong suit for core. You'll just play within that map and just go towards the rest. But if you're looking at the end of the series, though, we have Breeze as a third map. And that's been one of the main map picks for core as well. Despite them getting denied and destroyed by TWET the last week, they're still pretty comfortable in playing that map, because you mentioned it, Shift. It came down to like just holding down those numbers. If they hold down those numbers, the macro aspect of how they play Breeze is still good for them. So this is still a great opportunity for core to be an underdog and bring up a very good match and a very tough match for MXS to try to capitalize on.
It'll definitely be entertaining. It'll be fun to see. And for those wondering, yes, we have a little delay. That is why we're chatting. Once we start going down a couple of these, once we go down these rabbit holes, you know exactly what's happening, though. We're going to be taking a short break so we can let them rest their voices a little bit. You know it ain't about the casters chatting. You can draw some trivia instead. We'll be right back.
Greetings, Valorant fan. We're about ready to start match number 2. Agent Select coming up here. I'm Ship. That's Van Silly. Of course, you know him. You love him. Also, I just realized that I thought like your Letterman jacket, your varsity jacket, just said like the Bronx, Brooklyn, and I was just like, that's a weird way to put it. I didn't realize you had all of the boroughs on there. That's a sick jacket, brother.
Thanks, man. I got it off Urban Planner for like $10.
Dang. That's not even a sponsor. That's crazy to say that on the broadcast. We've got Agent Select ready to go, though, for map numero uno. Core Gaming taking on Moist X, Shopify, and Icebox being the locale. And I think, again, the expectation here is that there probably won't be too much that's going to be too wacky or crazy, but there are some things that we're looking forward to seeing, especially considering the lack of recency the last time MXS have played this map.
That's why. And I think that's why that's like the ace on the sleeve, right? Under the sleeve that you could actually pull out something that's crazy. And I'm down for it too. I mean, you've seen a lot of teams that are trying to experiment a little bit more with the deadlock coming through. It almost looks like a luck of the draw, kind of like a one-off thing. And from EG, for example, when you're watching over at Kickoff, if you've been watching that, and then after that, the second time they had to play it, they got owned, right? But you have other teams that are still trying to run it, like VCT Esports, for example, and they've had some ups and downs in terms of results going into that map as well using deadlock. But it doesn't necessarily have to just come down to that. There's been some compositions where Raze has made a resurgence. KO looks even stronger right now as well on a map like Icebox, because now you get to eliminate a lot of that utility for, deniability when you're trying to get the plants down, especially if you're running a composition that doesn't have any walls for you to come in and try to plant, right? So that KO could be very strong for that too. So you have a lot of avenues, right? There's no traditional.
Yeah, I was going to say that we've seen over the course of really the history of this map, there has always been little variance here and there. Of course, you've got your staples, but it does feel like your call on initiator is really up to you and what your play style looks like. And we've even seen, again, kind of the same thing of trying to add a duelist sprinkle into the mix. Sometimes we've seen Rain on the map. Other times we've seen Raze. So it's just like, it does kind of allow you to kind of establish your identity. I think is kind of the biggest way of putting it, which is a fun topic of conversation for a core team that is yet to really kind of do that. I mean, a couple of moments in their first week where it's just like, all right, this is cool, I'm here for it. Maybe it didn't work out fully, but like TWT's not a bad squad, and this is a tough, I would say, opening schedule for this core team. So looking at it, it's the same comp that you kind of have already seen from Core Gaming during their qualifier, and all the way back to MXS playing in those offseason invitationals, same composition for them as well.
Yeah, and the only change is what we're mentioning too, right? The min-maxing around your single initiator. So instead of bringing out that Sky on Brock will come out as a Silva. So you're starting to see something a little bit more coined by Lau, but at the same time allows you to add more utilities. So the reason why you want to have like a Silva in this as well is you're going back to those days of post-plant lineups and trying to spray through walls on post-plant, like Pearl, for example, when you played a lot of Viper and Harbor, in your composition as well. But also the Alotron is going to be able to activate Bada a little bit more moving in towards the sites when they're trying to scale up, right? So that gives you a lot. Because if not a Sky Flash, it's, yes, there's somebody, but where is that person? Yep. So I love the min-maxing around what MXS is pulling out. And on the other end, as you've mentioned, nothing really changes here for Core. They're still going with the double controller with the Omen. Actually, Zeldris is coming out with a Jet. I may have missed that one when I was looking at their composition in the past. And as I scaled back through it, they did bring out the Jet in the past too during the open qualifier. So my mistake on that one as well. So you still are able to get a lot of space making right now from this controller and the Jet. But the thing is, it's still less utility to try to go for these plants. So I'm expecting for Core to still try to work out towards this A site a lot with this type of composition. And as I say that, the Jet's moving towards B.
It's early days, Van Silly.
Yeah.
Pistol's not going to give us the full intention and the full design of what the default will look like. Let's be candid.
Yeah, true.
But
it's still early days, but there's still also ways to like pivot back over, right? That's the reason why you also have this double controller, and how Nerve could maybe even throw an orb if you wanted to towards the mid so that they could cross over back and forth. So I like, at least from what we're seeing, it's not a full out hit from Core towards this B site. You're just trying to at least waste out a little bit of utility, trying to figure out where the KJ is playing at the same time. And this is also to deny this orb potential that you currently have here from Core, from MXS on the defense, trying to deny that orb take, and then now there's all that pivot towards the B site.
Yeah, but Mata's just pushed right through. So now you can just hard stack your defense over towards the B site with maybe a lurker at mid. You've also got Vic holding a pretty forward line here at green, but the recon bolt pushes him off, and wow, big elimination kind of just as soon as we stop over to it. Nerve able to take down Mata as a first blood, and now all of a sudden you kind of feel like if you're core, that's the green light. Make your move towards A.
And they moved out forward outside of that tap of the orb on the B side audible, so that's a mistake there from Mata, and now an open site potentially here for the attack of core.
A little bit of a face hit right into the side, though. Doesn't quite get the high ground, and that's enough for Brock to tee off. Oh, no. I'm not going to say that's because Zeldris doesn't quite get the dash to where he wanted it to, but not having that high ground control, big difference maker as Brock just holds the corner. No threat at all of elevation coming out, and MXS take the pistol.
And that's not on exactly what you were saying. It's not on Zeldris on the dash. It's more on that power of playing that double controller. You saw that you could cycle now a Viper Wall and then also a High Tide from the Harbor Wall behind it, so you're slowing down every single type of person that's trying to run through that. Look at that. 3 of them are decayed and slowed. Walking towards the A site, it becomes easy picking for Brock in the back of the site. Beautifully done for MXS, despite losing a first player, converting or 4 versus 5. So now they have money to work with. Core, they never got a plant, so the only strongest weapon that they have in round number 2 is a Sheriff in the hand of T-Dog, while the rest of them are working 4 players up, down towards that mid. Up, down? Just up
down,
towards mid.
Up, down, left, right.
AB start.
AB start. God, we're so young.
Oh, yeah. What does that give, chat? Do we know what that code does?
People have... it's
definitely not 5% off the Sentinels bundle.
Well, you would name drop that.
You wish it was.
You wish it was. Speaking of wishing, they have to wish for Mata to do things with the Outlaw, and that's easy. Also, sick skin. I've never seen this skin.
Yeah, off the latest battle pass.
I'm here for that.
Yeah, I am down with it too. Well, I guess now we have a new act, but it was a previous battle pass. But yeah, it's actually quite cute.
I like it. Why the battle pass? Grind the game. Here we go. Dashing on over. Opportunity for Core to at least get some yellow control. Odashima
Legends say that when you shoot
down.
that outlaw, the dolphin makes a shank impression.
Oh, really?
Shank's impression, yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm here for that. Spike gets planted here. Hold on a second. This is still very doable for Core. And the exit. Whoa, hold on. This is looking pretty positive for Core all of a sudden. Cascade will come through. That will create literally a front line here for MXS's retake, but a brilliant shock dart chunks out Brock just a touch. Vic on the pinch. Gonna get red, but at least creating some space, some time, maybe some opportunities. Retake over towards yellow, also coming through, but for nothing but raw classics, this has been punishing. And Zeldris, well, now he's by himself and he'll be taken care of, but not bad to get the plant plus a couple of kills for Core.
That's actually really not bad, but I love how you sliced out that map on the retake too. You're denying visibility from Core, from yellow, and also just allowing more to just focus on towards between yellow and default box, right? So that kind of shows like a perfect triangle really towards the end from what the Viper Wall has and what the High Tide has. Yeah. But I love that at least if you're in the eyes of Core and you're IGLing this roster, you're realizing here what type of visibility denial you're pulling out here for MXS, and that maybe you're not going to try to work and fight towards yellow as much and really try to fight maybe the flankers and lurk back towards mid-orange. That could be one of those calls that you're going to try to look into, but this round is trying to take and get rid of this outlaw early towards B. And the L-Drone puts him away, but look at this full pivot back from Core right after towards the A site.
Yeah, it's just one of those things we're trying to feel it out, right? If you're Core, just try to create some opportunity, keep the defense interested in certain points, don't allow them to over-rotate early. As much as the Outlaw can be a point of punishment, it also does have its limits for sure. Odashima trusted B literally on an island here, and if he gets caught, let's say this could get dangerous because all of a sudden all that utility over towards A amounts to nothing, and this should be absolutely a free post plant for Core.
I just hate that you could still get killed like that, just repelling back and forth off that zip line. That is crazy. And at least you were able to time it out now on the attack on the pulse plant to avoid the shocks, and you're in a great spot for the pulse plant. Sure.
Ooh, key teleport. Just as Snarly was about to get taken through. And now we've got, wow, just a litter of utility on the site. And it's just down to who sees who first. Mata able to find first blood. Brock gonna cause some question marks here for Core, but they've got the post plant molly set up. T-Dog also catches the barrel of the rifle, following up with the second. Well done. And then there's the lineup for the third. Vic has to push forward, find the 1v2. Not going to get the first. Well done by Core.
Yeah, and that's a great way to counteract against this double controller as well, right? So when we have the snakebite lineups, you also have shock darts available, but this time not as available in that previous round because T-Dog was just being very patient just by the Rainite boxes of 410 and did a great job to actually take down the Outlaw off the hands of Mata. That said, though, that type of kill should not happen, and that was probably the swing kill that allowed here Core to get into the site, because everybody else was prepped up. This also cancels out that bubble that was thrown here by Flya, so a great counteract for that too. MXS has to start pressuring a little bit more against the lineups.
Oh, interesting setup here off the get-go again. MXS using this high tide as a way to kind of push forward. Lots of follow-up utility here. 2-for-1 goes the exchange. Early Hunter's Fury going to be called by T-Dog. Doesn't quite connect on the fly, who does at least able to hold on to this backside of A. And yep, that's talk about cause and effect. He stays alive to the Hunter's Fury, doesn't get scouted, and finds snarly numbers now for MXS's defense.
Nice little change there too as well. When you don't want to find the time to fight for retakes or fight for flanks, you just bring the fight to them, and they isolated the L-shaped to not give any visibility for Core so they could focus on Nest to get all those kills. That was so nice.
Cascade at the ready. Rotation going to be denied by Odashima through mid-map, at least in terms of an exit is concerned. So this is likely going to turn into a 2v3 over the top of the A site. Okay, Mata's at low HP, and he does get eliminated by Ziff, so now it turns into a 2v2. Puts a little bit of extra pressure on Odashima to rotate back, and oh my goodness, T-Dog almost got a lineup. Only finds the one, though, so now we reset everything. Spike in hand, well, could be. And Ziff is going to avoid that, actually just play for the kills. First contact, decent, but doesn't quite take advantage of the bait out. Cove gets placed, and Ziff is going to commit to this 1v2.
Wait, he's going to dance around this. He wants to fight the back of the site, could still find a timing.
It's just down, does he actually catch the info on the reset? One player up top. Thought about maybe the ropes for a second. And now it's just down to who sees who first. Spike collected. Ziff now has to go quickly, and that's enough for Fly to find the freebie. 3-1 we go.
Thought from the radar, Flyer was actually behind the site still, and that would have been a nice time to get the kill, but he moved up towards the A tower, and everybody just watching that Spike. Very well done on a 1 versus 2. But that said, there was an opportunity to fight back on as soon as the high tide came down initially, but then Flyer had to throw another one just to section off the generator side, so you can't get any of those pixel plants either, despite them not using a Sage Wall for Core on the attack. But I just loved how they're being so active here on these walls from Flyer to just really isolate and funnel their opponents into the line of sights of where the players are. So now Core, on their side, they have to start thinking, how can we play against this aggression of how these walls keep coming out that you're not used to seeing?
You have to commit something to it. You're going to have to commit early utility just to try to have like this little game of resource battle over the top, because you're absolutely right. And MXS are going to continue to use that as an early advantage. Orbs get collected, though, so Brock will add, I was going to say, add the Hunter's Fury to the mix if he does need to rotate to B to help Mata out, who needs no help. Double comes through, and now it's an early 5v3.
And at least it's only pistols that you have in this round for Core, but you could definitely see the idea right now for the wall slicing up the site. Absolutely. It allows for you to create an extra obstruction where Fly could just ADS from the front of the default spot to look into Belt, and he can't get shot from Nest. At the same time, 2 players are still watching it on their ends from 410 and from Maze to cover pipes. And you get free orb collection if the opponents are not using utility to prevent you from getting that orb. So that adds a lot of strength into the defensive side so far of MXS and how they're working this side of the A site. Now you're funneling towards B. Thankfully, for now, like Mata doesn't have an operator yet, but that definitely will be coming out later.
Nice opening shot from Zeldris, gets us back to more manageable terms. There's that Hunter's Fury as called from before. T-Dog tagged, steps away, delaying for the 3rd bolt as the rest of MXS's defense try to contest this spike plan. High tide surely about to fall soon, but not before Flya finds 2. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the early pressure is not just even happening by A, by the way. It's now every single defense MXS have also contested that front side at green. So they're really trying to over-embellish the outsides of this map at the moment.
Yeah. And you have still a pretty decent composition here for Core to try to nullify and play against Motto on this B site. And again, actually, I was going to say probably he was going to bring out a Blade Storm only, but he's actually investing into the operator. And you see this recon dart going towards that belt. They might try to go for a fast updraft and try to get some control towards pipes, but there's 4 players over here. And Core is in for a surprise.
Yeah, happy to take the resource battle early again is MXS. Brock right back to start to make progress towards another Hunter's Fury.
Dinked.
Vic still playing up. Like you mentioned, Mata shrugged off his position. Good check down low, but it doesn't matter. Vic gets the lineup for 2. They're able to respond with 1, and keep in mind, Vic is down to a single bullet worth of health, so this is still manageable, but nonetheless a 4v3.
Opponents were lined up pretty much at that point. Very nicely done for those 2 kills from Vic and able to fall back. Yes, he has a pit up, but at 5 HP, as you just mentioned, probably won't use it in this round. But at least for MXS, they have power numbers, and they also have 4 pinned inside the A site.
Yeah,
as of
absolutely
this
the
point.
case. Yeah, Odashima, same thing right through mid this time, taking an extra step forward. Snakebite not quite landing. Flya backing up just a touch. Again, just creating that line of scrimmage right on top of the A zone. And this is going to delay this core hit just a while longer. Not a lot left here besides the recon bolt, which does get sent out. Brock counters. Vic does eventually fall. Damali's nerve. Follow up off the shock dart. Doesn't quite get the chunk. And now the kill actually provides a space coming through with the Viper Stick being played. But Odashima's flank comes in, takes us now to a 2v2. And it's just down to how do you break past this pit.
Oh, they counted the bullets. Fly got picked off reloading. They can't use the reckoning, so very winnable condition now for Core.
Odashima trying to look right back out, and nope, T-Dog right here. That is brilliant. And it really all just comes down to maybe a little bit of luck. That nerve does hit that molly, and that's enough to earn the Viper Spit, because, wow, that post-plant becomes much messier when the Viper Spit's involved.
Yeah, we'll definitely take that in the end, right? When it comes down to staying calm under the pressure and still able to convert that into a win, it does bring a lot of confidence, especially in a vocal IGL like T-Dog. So that might bring a little bit of resurgence here, because, I mean, look at that lineup from Vic. And you saw the way that they escaped. They throw a cove on top of that, too. So util is kind of great. I also want to add, I know it's really is not against the what Core currently has right now, but the wall and the high tide that they place on the A site to even cover the A tower, it also counters the wingmen going for a plant in the future. So you're min-maxing this composition overall against so many different types of other comps.
Well, this is one way to kind of clear out that obstacle we were talking about, literally hurdling it, get over the top, pull out the blades, and then immediately follow up with a quick lockdown in play. Defense largely going to have to contest this thing from the front. You've got Mata on the potential flank with blades of his own, and the Viper Spit's going to be placed just as the hit starts to come through. Reckoning also available, so MXS may try to contest this spike plant. Odashima getting one. There's the Reckoning coming through. This should be another follow-up on the lockdown, and it will be. So now all of a sudden, Snarly's like, where do I go? I got to keep moving, but doesn't have much space to work with this lockdown coming out.
And they never got the wall bang on Vic, so the pit stays up as well.
Yeah.
You got to stay outside of all that. You have a flank from behind from Mata with the Blade Storm. This is a winning win condition for MXS.
Paranoia out from the offense. Nerve again connecting with the molly, but the flank too good for Mata. Whoa!
Where's the
throws it right through the ventilation shaft, and then Brock right there to tally the final kill. Impressive set of knives, though, to be sure, on both sides, but MXS's retake too strong.
They did not give enough chance and enough time for the rest of Core to react on that pulse plan. Everybody was so fixated on playing the pulse plan and protecting the pulse planner in the front with all that utility that was being thrown from MXS that they never realized that Mata was on the flank with the Blade Storm. And yeah, beautiful set of knives because he had to be on point for those shots. And because of that, for sure, you're going to be calling that timeout. Overall, though, when you're looking at that last round, everything was looking really good here for Core. In their eyes, they're like, oh, this is going to be an easy site for us to take here because we have a lockdown. But I felt like they were a little bit off not seeing the amount of utility and ults that were available on defense, because a reckoning and a lockdown is just going to cancel out everything that you have after you get the plant. Yes, maybe because of that, you're comfortable of playing, okay, we got the spike, we got the spike down with the lockdown, we can put the lineups right after, but you definitely had to be ready for the amount of util that was going to come through instantly as soon as the spike went down.
And this time out, surely, Vansili, we're talking about, if you're Core, how do we get some extra control over Red A? I mean, the rounds that they've won have all come by way of kind of forcing in an engagement and finding a way to secure a kind of heroic post plant in one way or the other. But the initials have not gone well. First Bloods have been really easily tallied by MXS. And you got to be thinking all the way through this if you're Core, what do we do to counter this high tide, if at all? Because they really haven't even tried a true design towards B yet.
One, that, and secondly, if they're going to try to hit the A side again, is how can they get rid of the flanker, because they got flanked twice out of that right now, and it's been watched every single time by MXS. So they had to be ready for extra layers, and I'm pretty sure that's what Ocean right now is calling in a timeout too, if we try to go back towards this A site. This time around, though, trying to fight against Mata. They know the economy's still pretty low because they lost the operator for Mata. So now they realize, okay, it's a Vandal. Let's get him out of position. They can lurk now towards Kitchen, and this is a little bit of a change, too, from Core. They want to try to add lurks themselves. Yeah,
but the thing about it is, it's a 65 if that comes through, because the turret's watching that window. Mata on the corner. Shoulder has been seen. Baits out an early engagement from Snarly. Double swing comes out, but it happens not as clean as he would have liked. Another stack up through. Vic does at least counter it back. Nerve says there's the other defender, takes care of it, but still not really an opportunity to make its way through this ramp position, and Brock is nearby to try to even contest and isolate Nerve. Oh, wait a second. Did the Aldrone just block a potential headshot on Odashima?
I think so.
Oh, no way.
Unlucky, and T-Dog gets the shock dart trying to break KJ Utility, but only breaks the alarm bot, so he's low on HP on a post plant now. Shock dart!
Boom! No, Kobe! Oh, man. We need a replay on that 1v1 through mid, please. Because that looked like that Aldrone was coming right into the line of sight.
Wait, body shots.
Wow. Yeah,
2 body shots
low.
is good right now for Vic and for Oda to fall.
Just comes down to what else is still left here. 2 mollies for Vic. Brock from one side, Vic from the other. And Ziff is not going to be baited out by these stray shots. Doesn't matter if Vic is able to find him and let him know about it afterwards. What a weird round.
Yeah, that definitely was a saving grace going through. And the weird round, I think, started from the first seconds in the first engagement on yellow. Because at that point, the first jiggle that went through, I don't think they ever expected that Fly was going to be there with Mata. So Cascade comes out, and then suddenly you get a double kill through your opponent's Cascade from Zeldris, and it gets instantly traded. So they didn't realize there were actually 3 players on this B side. Look at this kill that came out from Vic. Beautiful trades that came towards the end, which allowed here MXS to capitalize against the eco that we had from Core. So that's a little bit of a saving grace here for at least Core. They did that much damage once again with a lower buy, and now you're going into these swing rounds where the money's finally right for the attacking side, and you have at least 1 ult to work with.
Here we go. Mata, quick. Yeah.
Bye.
All right. That's, yeah. I was just about to say the breakdowns were starting to kind of come through. Core kind of making MXS think about some things on these opening engagements, but just when you think everything starts to kind of get a little bit more under center, MXS throw a curveball at them.
At this point, I'm just going to go take a break here because I don't even have a chance to analyze. Everything's been quick so far, and it's just action after action. And I'm only going to speak during freeze times because at least we're trying to find some sort of tempo and timing from both sides, but it's always won by MXS so far.
That nano swarm is disgusting. And reveal afterwards, T-Dog dead to rights.
Spike down A.
Man, that's such a frustrating round for Core, I have to imagine, because
2 in a row.
You're starting to get the breakdown of what MXS are trying to do in these opening 30 seconds, and then all of a sudden, when you feel like they've got it figured out, here comes Mata throwing out knuckleball. Yikes, that's wild. What a change of tempo.
And here's the thing, though. I'm saying 2 in a row because this is the second time that T-Dog's going into the site, trying to plant and trying to break shock darts at the same time to the nanoswarms and missing them. So if anything, maybe your protocol, if you're going to be trying and already giving a recon dart out and give your position away on A side as a Sova, why don't you have a lineup to break that util from the get-go on the A site? If you're recon dart or if you're Aldrone, like if you know the Killjoy is playing there, have somebody else maybe play towards that side, realize that the Killjoy is there, run your lineups, and then run the hit, because if not due to chaotic moments, there's just too much util that goes against you on the post plant or even your attempts to plant.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, well, we're going to get a little bit of a breather here because Core find themselves on a very limited buy. They do have the Hunter's Fury. If things get interesting, and they can get a plant off, so keep that in the back of our mind. But that said, T-Dog's the one carrying the spike, so maybe not. We'll see.
It's all going to get sounded and heard by the alarm bot. So they know the KJ's on this B side, but we talked about the troubles them trying to get a plant without a sage wall. It's going to be very difficult.
Yeah. Mata tries to come through. Hunter's Fury actually being used right at the get-go. Bold to say the least. A couple opening eliminations keep it interesting, but I mean, you would have thought you wanted that for a post plant setup. Not even a chance to collect weapons. T-Dog finds himself in a 1v3.
Did some damage, but they had to waste out a Hunter's Fury for that one as well. But thankfully here, as they realize now, again at the beginning of the round, the KJ utility's there, so T-Dog might have a better chance and a better luck to plant here. And if he gets better position too, dude, he'd be looking at a good spot.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, Stinger 1v3 doesn't happen all that often. It's like a lunar eclipse. Doesn't happen often. When it does happen, it's always special. I forget what's more rare, the lunar or the solar eclipse. Solar,
Isn't
right?
the solar one coming very soon? I think it's like the next month.
Oh, snap. Look at that. Astrology things. Well, here comes T-Dog up front. He is going to be ran at. And that's enough.
Jumping Vandal.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I thought the chances. I mean, you know, you got to sometimes give some sort of hope for the person that's in a 1 versus 3. And again, they had good position, but in the end, when you have this type of drive-by, oh, they're letting it known. They're letting it known right now for MXS. I love this first half coming out of them. There's grip, there's aggression. Not only from how they're shooting bodies at the end, but also just from their, again, utility that they're using at the beginning of the round. This time, again, might be another one of those, because if you're looking at the state of the game, we're getting really close to Blade Storm for Mata. He could get control on the pipes. They do the same type of wall, control the left side of Belt. What can Core do to answer that this time around?
And that's the thing.
There's been a timeout a few rounds ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, during that timeout, I'm sure this is one of the conversation points. How do we deal with this exact same setup? This time, Brock getting aggressive with a recon dart. That's going to enable not just Vic for an extra angle, but Mata up top. So A is no longer a really good option. Let's be honest. You just don't go and check this anymore unless
Especially
you have some idea in terms of being able to flush things out. Reckoning even getting caught. I mean, dude, this is legitimately, we're just better. We're just better. That's all this call is.
At that point, you just got to run, because even if you're trying to walk away, the audio cue's out there, so they know where you're actually escaping from. And they actually got 2 players stunned out of that, and it dropped the spike.
Yep.
That is so unfortunate there on how Core wanted to counterbalance against a Reckoning that came out, but I guess it just were never aware or expecting that there was going to be a Reckoning through. At least there's this flank. Give me some sort of hope right now from Nerf's position.
But the problem is, because of how successful the push through was and the spike being down, this flank means nothing. It's just,
unless they're able to do this type of ruckus right now. If they'll just continue to get picks here, there's a timing. There's still time right now. There's 35 seconds left and an opportunity for Nerve, who's inching in right now on the backstab.
The thing is, MXS are still just playing forward. This is like them playing a TDM right now, flat out.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden, Mato's aware that we've gotten some good control over towards this green position. Now I can just watch the flank, and you're well.
No way.
Snarly?
No way.
Oh, he got turned on. No, not like that. Time going to be an issue here. Nerve's able to collect. Doesn't get across. And
if only got that kill.
Wow.
If only got that kill. But then again, even if he got a kill, look at where Odashima was, right? He was already boiler, so it probably would have given it a chance for the post plant to happen no matter what. But, oh man, there was a chance at least to make something happen out of that push. I mean, like I said, sometimes there's maybe a lack of discipline towards these moments, because as unorthodox it is that you ran a Reckoning out on the attack on your defensive side, what is the game plan after that? You don't build a playbook towards the end of the round like that, too, of where you're watching your angles after. So there was an opportunity there for Core. But unfortunately, it's not. It's 9-2. There's at least something that could happen right now. I mean, we got
fans
3 ops.
I was going to say, let's tally the current inventory. Because this is one of those loadouts you see coming out of spawn and you just go, like, it's just,
now we're back to normal. There's 5 rifles. But Core has ults to work with, right? So they're looking to lean towards this B-side control and potentially ult out there and have Nerve on a late lurk. So this could be pretty good.
A little bit of back and forth on Operator or Vandal. You pick.
You should run.
Lockdown going to get placed. Like you said, this is still a very methodical setup for Core. Lots of tools to work with. But it's just the weirdness in the amount of economy that MXS has. Shock Dart's at the ready to try to counter the push.
They're pinging where to plant, too. I think they're trying to go for a plant so that Nerf can get line of speed from mid, but how does that Shock Dart get a kill?
I don't know. Vic, good for, he's a walking double kill at this point.
Spike planted.
Wow. This is a statement map from the side of MXS. A map that we haven't seen them play. And I don't want to, if I'm playing up against them, I don't want to see it ever again. I'm just, Combs down. This is going to get it to halfway. Vic just went on a tear this half, which is weird to say because it was a lot of Mata doing a lot of the early work, but wow, that is a half. That is a half of Valorant that just happened.
Switching sides.
Well, we mentioned it at the beginning of the game, right? Players that are really stepped up to the plate and that found their groove and their rhythm since the season. It's not only Mata and the consistency that he currently has now on a duelist role, but it's Vic as the controller right now. So if Mata has to escape, it becomes now Vic the first point of contact against any type of pushes, and he's doing a great job anchoring those sides and helping the teams on a retake. So this is a great recipe that we currently see from MXS from beginning to the end. Hopefully the story changes right now on the attacking side if you're a fan of Core, but or defensive side if you're a fan of Core, but it doesn't seem to be the case. They have great trading fundamentals right now for MXS as well. It's a tough game to fight. This nanostorms for pipes. They're going to try to push aggressively now for L control, and there's only one player of Core on defense.
Yep. Also on top of that, I know it's only been one game through, but MXS is currently our best pistol team in the game. 5-1, make it 6,
Nice.
and now 7 also tallied if they win this one. First blood comes through. High Tide creates, again, the area of attack, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
And Core's going to have to play retake.
I might have missed it too. I think the Nanoswarm went towards screens instead, so nobody could run through behind the High Tide that's thrown. So yes, there's some damage from the snake bite, but at least they get the plant.
Paranoia largely countered by the kill from Odashima. Vic also following up top. All the long range shots. Tough pixels to peek, but still finds it. Goodness gracious. Someone put a leash on Vic. He's gone bananas in this map number 1. 11-2 the count. And let's just call a spade a spade. Core needed to win that pistol.
What's the next map?
Bind is map.
Yeah, and whose map pick is it? Oh crap, this is not looking good for the series, but I mean, this is also, you know, thinking about the interviews that we saw last week too. It's Valorant as well, and sometimes it's just impossible for you to try to win your own map pick too in Valorant. And I'd like to stick to that story, at least for now, if I want to give more hope to Core so far. But you could definitely see the amount of util that continues to be very strong from MXS on the execution. This time they're doing it with rifles. Good luck.
And you want to talk about just like shoe on the other foot here, talking about how MXS dominated this A control on the offensive side, not allowing Core a chance to even get through to even contest the orb. Same thing's happening here. It's just from a different perspective. It's the exact same utility, the exact same setup. And it's not even that Core can't barely even get over towards the orb control. They can barely even get into sight unless they're holding this back Raptors position.
The only thing right now is that they did a great job stalling the push from MXS.
That's fair.
And that said, there's nobody watching mid or lurking mid, so they know the re-hit's going to happen until Oda swings out and hits him for 70, so now they're going to be guessing. See, look at that rotate being pulled up at the cage already from Zip. There's less players now inside the 8 side.
Wyatt just walks his way up top, or slides his way up top. Snarly down low. Not the cleanest of entries here, as there is an elimination from Zip, but I'm telling you, Vic is a walking double kill. This guy's going nutso. 3 in the round already, and a chance for a post plant.
It's like going to be potentially safe. Maybe unorthodox position because it's actually in the front of Raid 9 boxes at Maze. But they're going to have control in sight, and they're playing against lower buy, so it's not too bad. They get the victory. Map point. I got to say, though, at least, I don't know if you saw that beginning of the round there, Shift, but one of the things they could do, as we mentioned before with double controller with an Omen, is you could do a lot of smokes on defense and one ways to prevent visibility. And I love that they have that towards that nest side on A. But the thing is, it's you're playing against this double controller that usually if you're hitting hard towards the A site, a cascade's going to come out. And the cascade's also going to deny your visibility to see through the one way to get any type of value on belt. So you that gets pulled out right away, and your composition is already a checkmate. It's your a paper to their scissors pretty much at this point with this cascade right here.
Chest with smokes. Is what I heard.
Exactly.
Well, it's been nothing but MXS pretty much the entirety of this map. Save a couple of hero moments from court. T-Dog down low would have to do something filthy if they were to hold on, and he will get pushed off and take a lot of damage. The judge not really panning out to this point. Defensive Viper's Wall currently holding MXS, but this is like water stacking up on a very broken dam as Odashima also punishes on the flank. So now it's just down to when do you want to hit the green light to go, and Snarly may have them reconsidering just a touch with a counter pick. We go 4v4.
Yeah, keeps it red, at least for now, on Thou Shall Not Pass on the A site. So the green light is definitely go towards B, but they are heavily damaged out of this, right? So T-Dog has a judge, can maybe get a one and done because of his HP, but at least he'll be able to get the audio call, but it's going to be way too late. I mean, everybody's still towards the A site, man.
There's the reveal. Actually, good damage from T-Dog. Being chased, though, and that will be enough for Bada to find the easy elimination. Nanoswarm still in place, but deleted, of course, just as I talked about
30 seconds left.
And Odashima's going to have, he's going to have a free route to get through mid here. If he can get to kitchen behind Snarly, this is not what you want to see. And now Core have to essentially wait and hope that they can find a straight pick somewhere.
Enemy remaining.
Not happening.
Not happening at all.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Well, GG.
I felt it. I felt it. I felt it there. I felt it there. After that first headshot, maybe we would have seen some matching happen from Ziff and we go another round. But unfortunately, we again get settled with the harsh reality that this was really one-sided now for MXS.
Yeah, that's yep. It's one of those things. Like it's really tough to go through a map like that when, you know, again, for the first half of the map, we laid out the problems, and MXS showed us the same issues when they got onto the offensive side. This play from Harbor, being able to just dominate 75% of the A site, is just, it was uncounterable, it felt like, for Core. Definitely a problem that they were not prepared for jumping into this map.
That's for sure. Hopefully they'll be able to reset things onto the second map, of course, for Core. Again, it is still MXS's map pick. There's still some cool things you could do on Bind. I'm excited to see what's going to happen there.
Yep, we had a lot of very weird looks from Core compositionally on that map. So yeah, we'll break everything down to the best of our ability when we come back after the break, and it'll be Bind for map number 2. Be right back.
Face.